Kלים, Perikid Base, Mishnah Aleph. And we carry on with Kli Matchis. Says the Mishnah, Tabas Odom Tameya. A ring which is worn by a person is Tomei. This is quite a straightforward din. This follows on from the Mishnah as we did before, that any tachshit of an Odom is called a Kli Maaseh, and therefore is Mekabel Tumah. However, says the Mishnah, Tabas Behema V'chelim Ushakol Atabois Tahoirois. So a Tabas Behema, a Tabas made for a Behema, and the tachlis of this Tabas is letachshit. It should be a noi for a behema. The rule is that a noi behema is not included in the rules of kol tachshitim tameim. That's a tabas behema. Tabas keli means a tabas of a kli where the tabas is a tachshit of the kli. So of course, if it's mechuba to the kli, it becomes part of the kli like anything else which is mechuba. We're dealing with a tabas which is not mechuba, which can be attached to the kli. When it's unattached, because it's a tachshit of a kli, it's not included in the rules of tachshitim. Sha'akal atabois means a tabas which also belongs to a kli, but it's not a tachshit for a kli. It's actually a tabas which has a function. It serves, it's ancillary to the main function of the keli to which it is attached. So this a tachshit, a tashmish of a kli is not itself a kli. For a kli to be called a kli tashmish, it must be a tashmish of an odom. But a tashmish of a kli itself is not considered to be a tashmish for Kabbalah's Tumah, and therefore such a tabas, when it's unattached, is toher. The Mishnah carries on. Koiras hachitzim temeah. Bartanura tells us two pshatim. One is a simple pshat. The English word is a quiver. It's a metal, these are all metal kelim in this Mishnah. It's a metal box which sits on the soldier's shoulders, in which he puts all his arrows in, he sticks them in there. It's poshet, it's a regular kli matchus which has a tashmish, and of course it's tomei. That's pshita. The other pshat is more of a chiddush. It's the Mefarshi says about Tanura, hamatoro lechet, it's a target. It seems from the Rambam this is actually a wooden target. The wood itself would not render the kli able to be makabel tumah because wood has to be a kli kibble. However, the wooden target has metal notches or metal grooves or lines or beads or something which are the actual main points of the target. Because the ikar of the kli, although it's a small part of the kli, but that's the ikar of the kli, are made out of metal, so the whole target gets the din of shem of kli matchas, and kli matchas doesn't have to have a base kibble in order to be mekabel tumah. However, says the Mishnah, v'shel asirin tahira. If you have a metal block, for prisoners known in English as stocks, in order to keep the prisoner imprisoned, there's a metal block which sits on that big heavy metal block which sits on the ground. The metal block has two sections. The bottom section has a hole in which the person puts his leg, for instance. Then you close the top one on his leg, and he is therefore imprisoned in this metal block. Such a kli is toher. Why? Because the whole function of the kli is really just a weight. It's actually not doing anything. It's just stopping him from moving, stopping somebody from moving, and just by the weight of the person, of the kli on the person, because the kli actually isn't moving or actually hasn't got a function in the sense that it hasn't got anything that it does. It just stops the man from doing something. That is not called enough of a tashmish choshuv, and therefore is tahor. Hakoilor tameh. However, koilor is like the English word collar, a metal collar which sits around the prisoner's neck, which the prisoner moves around with it, is tomei. Because although it's actually not doing anything, but because it's transportable and portable and it's always moving it with him, and it has a tashmish, therefore it's called a tashmish odom. The Mishnah carries on. Shalsheles. These are chains, metal chains. Sheyesh ba beis ne'ila tamea. Before I come to explain that one, I want to explain the next case first. ha'asuya lechfisa tahira. If the whole tachlis of a metal chain, again, similar to the koiras hachitzim, if it's just there to imprison the person, to chain him down, and therefore doesn't actually have a separate function except for the fact that it's heavy and imprisons a person, then under the rule of the koiras ha'asirin, it's tar because it doesn't have a tashmish. However, if it's also, in additional to just the fact that the weight of the chain imprisons him, it also has a lock, it has a padlock stuck to it, which you can do and undo, that extra tashmish of ne'ilah now renders the kli into a kli tashmish, and the shalsheles is now tomei. Then the Mishnah carries on with the shalsheles shel sitoinos. The Baal Tanura's pshat, there are actually a lot of difficulties on the Baal Tanura's pshat, which the Achronim ask, and therefore for this case of Shalshenes Shal Sitonis, to the end of the Mishnah, we will do the perish of the Vilna Gaon. Sitonos are wholesalers, merchants that travel around with their goods. When they travel around with a box of goods, they have a chain attached to the box, so that whenever they arrive somewhere, they can always attach the chain to a wall, to a pole, to keep the midah, the box of goods, so that it shouldn't be stolen. Because the sitoin, the wholesaler, schleps this around with him, so it's not just staying. It doesn't just stay in one spot. Because it's attached to the box, and the sitoin moves the box with the chain with him, and whenever he needs to, he just affixes the box to a wall, or to a kli. Therefore, the shalsheles is called a kli tashmish. Shel bali botim tahira. Bali botim don't move around. They just have a chain, which is fixed to the wall, and the chain fixes the wall to the middle of the kli he wants to keep intact. He wants to keep in one spot. Therefore, the shalsheles is basically, its primary function is to be mechuba lekarka, to be mechuba to the koisel. Doesn't move around. Therefore, it's tahir. Omer Rabbi Yosi, Eibosai. When do I say that the shalsheles of a balabais is tahir? Because it's always mechuba lekarka. Its primary function is to be fixed to the wall. When we're only dealing with one chain, that means you have a chain, it's stuck to the wall, and whenever the balabais wants to fix or lock his midah, his basket, his box, he then attaches the midah to the chain, but the chain primarily is always fixed to the wall. And when he wants to take the midah away, he unclips the midah from the chain, leaving the chain mechuba lekarka. Therefore, the chain is always considered to be mechuba lekarka. But if there are two chains, half of which, one half of the chain is mechuba to the koisel, and then at the end of that chain there's a lock or a clasp to which he fixes the chain, which is mechuba to the midah. So the midah always has that, the part of the chain is always mechuba to the midah. He moves that around with him. When he wants to fix the midah to the wall, he then joins the two chains together. So that part of the chain, which is not mechuba to the koisel, but which is mechuba to the kli, is like a shalsheles shel sitonis, and therefore, because it has a tashmish odom, it is therefore makabel tuma. Oi, shekosha chalozon b'roisha. You've only got one chain, but the chain isn't always mechuba to the koisel. The chain has, at the end, the chalozon is a hook. It's this shape, like the zarka of laning. It's stuck to the end of the chain, which is attached to the kli. But the chalozon indicates that this chain is always going to be hooked to a ring in the wall. So the balabais will take the midah with a chain, and because the chain has a chalozim at the end of it, it's always there to be chained to a hole or to a ring which is attached to the wall. Then the chain is tamea because the chain belongs to the kli. It's not called mechubar lakarka and serves as a normal tashmish odom because it's used to. He uses it to lock his midah to the wall, and therefore, in such a case, the chain.